Hello, I'm Faranak Amidi, and this is the fifth floor dressing room where I get ready with some of my BBC World Service colleagues before they go on air, and we talk about some of the stories they're working on and some of the topics that are interesting for them. And today I'm with my friend and colleague from the BBC Afghan service, Shekiba Habib. Woo! Welcome, Shekiba. It's great to have you.
Thank you.
So, Shekiba, you are from Afghanistan, but now you live in London. So, tell me, when did you leave and why?
So I left in '96 when the Taliban were in power the first time. So that was obviously that was the reason that I left. So and then I arrived in the UK in '99. And since then I've been living here.
So when you were living back then, before the first Taliban takeover, when you were living in Afghanistan, what was life like as a woman?
Well, I mean, in summary, I can say that it was much better than what it is right now. When I was living before the Taliban came to power the first time, so things were slightly better.
And did you live in Kabul, like a big city?
Yes, I was born and brought up in Kabul. So the days that I went to school and I was a teenager. But when the civil war broke out and then when the Mujahideen took power, so things went upside down. But still, we had the freedom to go to university, and I was at university to go to school. Girls were going to school. But when the Taliban came, so things went from bad to worse. So yeah, that was how it was.
And what about because we are going to be talking about beauty standards and makeup and how things have changed throughout the years. I mean, of course, right now it's a completely different story. But when you were growing up in Kabul before the first Taliban takeover of the country, what were the beauty standards like, and where did you get your beauty standards from?
I don't know where it came from, but it was the fair skin.
Oh, okay.
So that was the must. So the fairer you are, the more in demand you are. So it was the skin color, and then obviously other feminine features like long hair, obviously being tall, so things like this. But fair skin was actually the top highest, and I think it's in most of those Asian countries in that part of the world.
How did people look at women who wore makeup back then? Like, how is it in your family, for instance? Was it okay for you as a woman who wasn't married to wear makeup, or was it a bit of a taboo?
It wasn't a comfortable area, to be honest. You know, even especially
it's a tricky thing to pull off. It's the same in our culture.
Absolutely, yeah. So it's my own family, my brothers and my dad. They never kind of commented on what we were or what we were, kind of the makeup we were, but it was something in the society. So, for example, I remember because I went to school one day and then the head teacher ended up rubbing my white scarf on my cheeks because she thought that I had blush on. But because I rushed to school so much, my cheeks were so red that I kind of like it kind of left. Imagine even now in this age, I still remember that incident. So
it's traumatizing.
Absolutely. So it is kind of like, and she was just rubbing the scarf because we used to have black uniform and white scarf. We were not wearing the scarf; it was just like around our neck. So she was just like, she kept rubbing that scarf over my cheeks because she thought that I had makeup on, and I was in year 10 by then. So at school, and it did traumatize me, as you said, and I cried that day when I went home. So it wasn't kind of something normal that people will kind of accept it, that someone who is not married or not engaged to wear makeup. But obviously we had those days that when you're going to a wedding or just there's a party or something, obviously you will be allowed to do some makeup, but not much. I mean, plucking the eyebrows was a big thing because that's how they recognized. This is how they recognize that the girl is engaged now. So that was basically a sign that to tell people that you're engaged now. Yeah.
And having your facial hair removed as well.
Oh, well, yeah. And the nail polish was another thing. So we used to have this nail polish remover, but it wasn't widely available. You go to a party at the weekend, so you're a wedding, and then Monday you're turning up to school, and this is it. you're having these nail polish, so you have to like. I've seen girls like using blade, literally shaving it off.
We used to use a sugar cube.
Oh dear.
I just can't believe it.
So yeah.
Blades to take it off, shave it off.
Absolutely. See, it was like shaving it off your nails, and yeah.
And the anxiety you feel.
Absolutely.
Over nail polish.
And then this will stay with you for a while, because even the teachers
forever, Shekiba. We're sitting here talking about it.
Exactly. At this age, we are talking about it.
So, I mean, in 2021, the Taliban retook power in Afghanistan. And of course, you know, right now, the situation for women is really dire and dark. Mm-hmm. They can't go to school.
Yep.
In some cases, they cannot even get medical help. They cannot study they cannot even go to university anymore.
When you will lose count.
Yeah, I mean, you can't even speak in public.
Exactly.
I mean,
and as I said, you know, you will lose count of all these bans and all these restrictions. So yeah.
Yeah, and you know, when you put everything into perspective, then, you know, talking about, oh, beauty salons are closed, maybe you would be like, oh, who cares?
Exactly.
Women cannot go to school. But beauty salons were a backbone of women's bonding in a country like Afghanistan, where they didn't have a share of public spaces.
That's true. And some women, they just went there because they had that moment for themselves. It was an hour, or it's half an hour, just plucking your eyebrows or just doing your nails or whatever it was. It was just their own moment, their own time and their own space. So they could just like talk about things that they didn't have other people to talk about.
Yeah, they didn't have the privacy ever
absolutely,
to do.
Absolutely. And there's hardly, because you think that, okay, my hairdresser or my makeup artist wouldn't know me. She wouldn't know where I come from. She wouldn't know my husband. She wouldn't know my sisters or brothers or my mother. And whatever I say, you would have this assumption that it will stay there, because you could have just opened up there and then you're like, open your heart out and then kind of talk about anything. And I think, yeah, we when you look at the the other bans and the other restrictions and the situation in Afghanistan to start with, there's malnutrition within children, there's like women dying on the giving birth. Yeah, makeup comes like towards the end of the list, but this is somebody's mental health. This is somebody's privacy. This is somebody's time for themselves. So even here, you need that moment.
Yeah, a lot of people who haven't lived under these systems, these ideological or religious authoritarian systems, which there is this constant intrusion into your private life. Even within your home, you have to worry, like, what you're drinking, what you're listening to, what you're watching. It's being watched, it's being controlled. And this, closing down beauty salons is exactly like that. And I'm sure in Afghanistan was the same. The atmosphere in a beauty salon in Iran, it was incredible. You would go there a whole day, and you had fortune tellers reading your coffee cup. It was people talking about marriage, talking about sex, everything. Things that you wouldn't talk about outside. It was so hush-hush. Everybody was talking about it loud and proud, to just bond with other women. And that's also taken away from them.
And that people who are there, you didn't have the fear that, okay, all these people are judging me. They are kind of like, what they will think of me. You don't have that feeling where, obviously, if you're sharing those information with any of your family members or anyone around you, you will have this thing in the back of your mind that what would she or he think of me. Yeah,
exactly. The judgment. And judgment is very important in our culture. You have to keep face no matter what. Absolutely. In Farsi and Persian, they say you keep your cheeks red, even if it is with slapping. Talking about these beauty salons, how did the society look at and think about the women who used to run these beauty salons, because there is a prejudice. I
Absolutely.
remember it even in our culture.
Absolutely. Everyone has got an opinion because it's just like they're preparing women to provoke men.
Yeah.
In simple words. This
always
is how
used to
they
talk
are
behind
thought
their
of.
backs.
And it's just like, oh, and as soon as you hear that she has got a beauty salon, and this is it then.
Oh, yeah.
So that was
yeah.
enough information about a woman.
Yeah.
You didn't need to go beyond that. Especially the time that I was growing up in Afghanistan. So, and I know women, they would just hide their profession. And it's just try to distance themselves.
And these women who ran these beauty salons were usually some of the few women that had financial independence. They were women who usually were either widows
Absolutely.
or were divorced, and they had financial independence, and that scared. It scared the whole neighborhood. They were, ooh, be careful about this. Be aware of this woman.
The public judgment was the same for everyone. So yeah, as long as you have a
They were the
beauty
bad
salon,
women,
absolutely, and
making other women bad.
exactly, because it wasn't only themselves that they destroyed themselves. It's just they're destroying other families.
Yeah.
Yeah, so they are wrecking families. They are wrecking relationships.
And Shekiba, I know that obviously you work on a lot of stories about Afghanistan today, and most probably you are in touch with a lot of women inside Afghanistan as well. This time around, with the Taliban in power, are things different a little? Do you think that the Taliban are able to enforce these restrictions as harshly as they did in the 90s? I mean, I understand with the schools and everything, well, they just shut them down. I know there are underground schools and everything. But with other things that are more private within the homes, can they enforce it as like they did in the 90s?
I mean, it doesn't have to be a Taliban member standing behind your door and knocking on your door. But the thing is, the mentality changes. Unfortunately, we get used to the worst. It's the mentality that kind of spreads around in the country that's really scares me. So I mean, we will get to a point, hopefully not, and that the Taliban, so everyone kind of like turns into
Taliban.
Yeah.
It's scary how the culture like spreads like wildfire.
Absolutely.
It does. Because also in a country like Iran, where before the revolution, women were wearing mini skirts and you had cabarets and a vibrant pop culture and everything in a span of 10 years after the revolution. The people themselves, if you wore lipstick on the street, would look at you and they would call you names.
Absolutely. So
it happens so fast.
I mean, as I said, it doesn't need to be for a Taliban member to come and check every household, but it's the mentality that will hopefully not, but that's the mentality that will change.
I follow quite a few Afghan social media influencers who are obviously not in Afghanistan, but I suppose that people in Afghanistan watch them.
Absolutely, absolutely. And you kind of search an Afghan makeup artist on Instagram, and hundreds of them are coming up. Some of them are in Afghanistan, but obviously they will be kind of like trying to hide
where they are.
Absolutely, yeah, their location and stuff. But the rest who are in Europe, of course, and I think the TikTok era and all the other social media platforms, it's good for them, and I hope for some who are in Afghanistan, it helps to kind of like keep up with the trend at least. So this kind of like have the opportunity to have a look at them, and then because there are weddings in Afghanistan happening, and they are doing the makeup, and
life goes on.
Absolutely, the life doesn't stop. If you have these restrictions, the life still goes on, as you said, and nothing stops because the world is there, and then technology will develop and everything else will develop.
Ever since 2021, you and I have had different chats about the situation of women. And in the beginning, we all hoped that the Taliban wouldn't stop women from education, from getting an education, stop women from going to work. And there were these glimmers of hope, but now we're seeing that things are different. But I see a lot of women inside Afghanistan and, you know, still singing, playing music. They wear the burqa and they sit in front of the camera and they sing and they play musical instruments. And it's just, it's beautiful. It's sad, but it's beautiful.
Yeah.
It's beautiful how they have not given up.
Absolutely.
And I wish for the best. It's hard, but we got to do it. Let's hope for a better future for our sisters, both in Iran and Afghanistan.
Absolutely.
Thank you very much, Shekiba.
Thank you.
As always, lovely to talk to you.
Pleasure
And
is
I
all
like to, I think you've done your makeup, haven't you? So I like to take a selfie with my guests. Come, let's do this. Ta-da! Thank you.
Thank you.